SLBC, the official voice of the people of Sierra Leone. You can also follow the program on Facebook, SLBC TV Channel 31, or YouTube, SLBC TV Livestream. It's bottom line. Miss it, miss out. Coming up this Tuesday, the new anti-corruption czar takes a giant leap in recovering over 8 billion leones from corruption-related offences. What are the highs and lows of the ACC settlement agreements in curbing corruption? And as the commissions of inquiry proceed, what eye is ACC keeping and how does this factor into its fight? Make a date with the country's youngest but solid anti-corruption commissioner, Francis Ben Kaifala, as he leads Joseph Egbenda Kapua on the path to winning the fight against corruption. It's bottom line, this Tuesday at 7 p.m. on SLBC, the official voice of the people of Sierra Leone. You can also follow the program on Facebook, SLBC TV Channel 31, or YouTube, SLBC TV Livestream. It's bottom line. Miss it, miss out.
Hello and welcome to the second edition of the program Bottom Line. This is a public enlightenment campaign talk show on social political events across the country. My name is Joseph Egbenda Kapua and my guest tonight is Francis Ben Kaifala. He's the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission in Sierra Leone. Welcome to Bottom Line.
Thank you, Mr. Kapua.
You can also be part of the program by sending your text messages to the number 030-022-639. The number again, 030-022-639. You can also join us live on Facebook at SLBC TV Channel 31 and on YouTube at SLBC TV Livestream. This is Bottom Line.
Miss out. Coming up this Tuesday, the new anti-corruption czar takes a giant leap in recovering over 8 billion leones from corruption-related offences. What are the highs and lows of the ACC settlement agreements in curbing corruption? And as the commissions of inquiry proceed, what eye is ACC keeping and how does this factor into its fight? Make a date with the country's youngest but solid anti-corruption commissioner, Francis Ben Kaifala, as he leads Joseph Egbenda Kapua on the path to winning the fight against corruption. It's bottom line, this Tuesday at 7 p.m. on SLBC, the official voice of the people of Sierra Leone. You can also follow the program on Facebook, SLBC TV Channel 31, or YouTube, SLBC TV Livestream. It's bottom line.
Now let's get started, Francis. How do you feel to be given this huge challenge to curb corruption?
As we all know, it's quite enviable, but also it's a huge task. So I'm grateful. But personally, on my own side, I am very happy to occupy the position. Because as you know, as many people in Sierra Leone are aware, for several years I have been speaking about these things. Issues of good governance, issues of anti-corruption, really trying to reposition Sierra Leone for respectability in the world. I've been speaking about them, I have been campaigning about them, and there are times when I have to even agitate about them. So to be given the opportunity to now act on what I have been saying is really a huge opportunity for me, and I am very grateful that it came to me at this young age.
Does it come with any pressure to deliver?
Of course, if you occupy the position of Anti-Corruption Commission, you are right in the center of the pressure point of the country. I mean, the expectations on you are very high. But I believe that I have prepared myself well for this, and I am ready for the challenge that this position comes with.
Now, let's look at the ACC itself generally. You would agree with me that the ACC usually has a three-pronged strategy to fight corruption. You have the prevention, you have education and investigation, and also prosecution. Let's start with prevention. What steps have you taken since your appointment to prevent corruption in Sierra Leone?
Yes, you're very right. The pillars upon which the anti-corruption rests are four. You have prevention, you have public education, you have investigation, you have prosecution. On the limb of prevention, what we have done, in fact, the center of my anti-corruption strategy is prevention. People usually like the sensational part of the fight against corruption, when people are arrested, when people are prosecuted. But that really is a weak way of fighting corruption. The strongest way of fighting corruption is prevention, when you are capable of reviewing systems and processes within the governance architecture, within the public system, and you deploy tools that can mitigate corruption, that can make corruption, that can make the tendency to commit corruption less possible, or otherwise that makes people to engage in corruption. It basically removes the incentives for people to engage in corruption. If you engage those systems, if you deploy systems and processes that reduce corruption, that make corruption easily detectable and actionable, that is the best way to fight corruption. That is how countries like Botswana have been able to rise through the ladders, and they now occupy the second position in Africa for the fight against corruption. That is how Botswana came from 32. That is how Rwanda came from 32 to number 2 in the world, in Africa, for the fight against corruption. Similarly, countries like Mauritius, Cape Verde, Ivory Coast, Senegal, and even Ghana have deployed prevention tools within their system, and that is why they have been able to gain respectability. So, my time at the Anti-Corruption Commission, we are currently reviewing the anti-corruption strategy for Sierra Leone, and I have had meetings with the experts who are working on this, and I have made it clear to them that our key way of fighting corruption in Sierra Leone is going to be based on prevention, deploying tools that reduce corruption, deploying tools that make corruption detection easy, deploying tools that make corruption less pervasive, that make corruption less pervasive. If we can do that as a country, we reduce the fight against corruption by 50%. We will not be operating like the fire brigade system, where we wait for fire to break out before the ambulances come running in. We will rather be preventing and make sure, in fact, there is no fire. So that is what we are doing. We are deploying the tools that make sure that we do not operate like a fire brigade system.
Now, Francis, do you also see public education as an effective means of fighting corruption? If so, how effectively has your commission used this tool to fight corruption in Sierra Leone?
Yes, public education is very important in the fight against corruption, particularly in the country where, over the years, I think a lot of effort has been made by the Anti-Corruption Commission. But one of the reasons why the fight against corruption had not been really yielding the fruit that Sierra Leone needs is because the public education drive was not sufficiently connecting the fight against corruption with the plight of the people. So the people saw the fight against corruption as an elitist endeavor, as an elitist venture, a group of politicians who set up a system to fight against themselves that really does not bother the people. And you hear Sierra Leoneans talk about bread and butter issues. But what a good public education system does is to connect the plight of the people with the fight against corruption. So the ordinary Sierra Leonean is capable of knowing that if he wakes up and he is not capable of providing for his family, and the government cannot do anything about it, it is because corruption has made the government not to even have resources to provide for him. To make sure that the ordinary man knows that if his children or her children are not getting good, proper, quality education, it is because of corruption. To let them understand that the resources that God has blessed this country with, the reasons why the ordinary man has not benefited from it much, is because of corruption. To make them understand that the reason why we don't have proper healthcare system in Sierra Leone 57 to 58 years after independence is because of corruption. Public education is what takes this message. It's what connects the people and the fight against corruption. Above all, it's what will bring to the attention of the people the effort that government and even the Anti-Corruption Commission is doing to fight corruption, to control corruption. Therefore, public education is really important, and that is why the moment I took over as commissioner, in addition to the system that was already at the Anti-Corruption Commission, I have set up
a new public relations unit within the public education system. So we now have the public education and outreach department. We now have the outreach department, there is public education department, there is outreach department, and there is public relations department. And the roles they play may seem similar, but they are not the same. Therefore, the PR department is really there. It's like the ACC's propaganda mechanism in a positive way, to really bring to the people the right message for them to understand what the anti-corruption is doing.
Now, you also recently brought Professor Lumumba into the country to deliver a public lecture. How does that sit within your overall fight?
Bringing in Professor Lumumba was one of the really highs of our campaign against corruption within 2018, and it was good that it happened right at the end when we are celebrating Global Anti-Corruption Day. Now, you see, Professor Lumumba is a globally known intellectual icon who has been speaking positively against the things that have affected Africa, for Africa to be poor. Now, if Sierra Leone has drawn the line against corruption, the President, His Excellency Brigadier Julius Maada Bio, has clearly drawn a line against corruption and has asked us to lead the fight against it, and we are doing so. But you see, when the same common people speak to their own people all the time about the same issue, there is the tendency for them to not to accept the message the same way as a stranger would. When Lumumba came, there was a story which he said, and which I quite share, which I will now share with the public, which he says that there are times when you live in your home and you have your furniture, and spiders come and build cobwebs on this furniture. You come every day, you see the cobweb on the furniture, you start thinking that the cobweb is part of the furniture. You believe that the cobweb is part, in fact, you enjoy it being part of your furniture. So much so that you even tell people, look at my furniture, it even have lines, and those lines are cobwebs. But a stranger will come in and look at this and say, no, 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 my friend. This is not just part of your furniture. This is a cobweb. And you, sitting down in your own room, will say, lo and behold, now I see clearly, this is cobweb. There are many things we have been speaking about the fight against corruption. We have been discussing against the fight against corruption. We have been doing a lot about it as a country. But it is different when you have such an intellectual come to the country to point our own cobwebs to us. A lot of people will take it more seriously, and that is why we brought in Professor Lumumba. And let me now clarify this, because a lot of people at that time were shouting that the Anti-Corruption Commission spent $75,000 to bring in P.O. Lumumba to Sierra Leone. I deliberately allowed that to go because it's not every stone that you throw that you have to turn an answer to. But I have to tell you this. We only paid $3,000. $3,000 for Professor Lumumba to come to Sierra Leone. Not $75,000 as they are saying. And so for such a global intellectual to come to this country, the man so loved Sierra Leone, he so loved what we are doing, that he said that, look, I am going to come to your country. All you have to do is to pay my ticket to come and let me stay in a good hotel. It is us who decided by ourselves to say, to tell him thank you. We put an envelope of $3,000 and gave it to him.
What impact have you sampled from that visit?
It was great. The message went right across. After that program, I have gone in many countries in Africa. I have met Sierra Leoneans in the US, in Kenya, in Nairobi, Tanzania, many places, South Africa, and they tell me that that was one time they really paid attention to what is happening in Sierra Leone. That was one time when Africa turns its attention to what Sierra Leone is doing against the fight against corruption. Within the country, I have met intellectuals, professors, teachers of the law, teachers of political science, who told me that that lecture is the single important thing that has happened to the fight against corruption since the beginning of the fight against corruption in Sierra Leone. So it was a great,
yes,
it was really a great.
Let's move to another area. Is the number of cases prosecuted and the number of convictions obtained the best way of assessing the success of the fight against corruption?
I have said that people like the sensational part of the fight against corruption. The investigations, the arrests, the prosecutions, that is what the public reacts to. But it's actually a weak way to fight against corruption. The strongest way to fight corruption is to prevent. However, because we know there are people who will not just take the prevention message, we have to balance prevention with prosecution. And if we are going to prosecute, We have to succeed in that regard. As I speak to you, since I became Commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission, we have had 8 straight convictions in the ACC, 100% conviction rate, no appeal from any of the convictions. This is unprecedented, and we are continuing to push. This is because our investigations are now really solid in such a way that when we present you with your evidence, it's either you decide to settle and pay back the people's money, and we decide what to do with you, or you go to court and lose anyway, and you are convicted. So, to your question whether it is the best way of assessing, I don't think conviction is the best thing, but success at conviction sends the right message within the population, and that is why we are trying to balance conviction with prevention.
Now, the judiciary is also an important component in the fight against corruption. What steps have you taken to ensure that the judiciary is on board as a key player in this fight?
Thank you very much for that question. You see, the fight against corruption requires 2 things for it to succeed. The political will, which comes from the political actors, and also the support of the judiciary, who are there to adjudicate on the cases that go to it. Because when the people believe that the judiciary is weak, when they believe that the judiciary is porous, they are ready to take their chances with the judiciary because they can either bribe the judges or they can otherwise exploit the system and go free anyway. It also undermines the work of the Anti-Corruption Commission because it will not have respect. Therefore, it is very important that the anti-corruption effort in the country aligns with what the judiciary is doing. As we all know, and we have to be very frank about this, there's a lot more we are still desiring of our judiciary. There are good men among them, good women among them who are working hard to see that the system is reformed. But historically, to date, we all know that the judiciary still needs a lot to do.
What are the drawbacks?
Well, for example, how do you explain for a judge to adjudicate a case like the 50th anniversary case, which took place in 2011, up to date, there is no judgment? How do you explain that we have about 20 or nearly 20 judgments which are still outstanding? Some of them have been outstanding for 3, 4, 5 years. And you know, what is really tormenting about this is, for example, when I took over as commissioner, I went to the Chief Justice, who did a lot to support our work as a commissioner. Although he's now removed from office, he's resigned, but he did a lot to support our work. He was really committed to the things, the programs that we took to him and everything. Yet, he himself had judgments to deliver that he did not deliver until he resigned from office. And that includes the 50th anniversary case. It happened, he was the judge who sat on it. We have other cases before some other judges. The immediate past Chief Justice, yes. He was very supportive of our work, but he just couldn't deliver the judgment in that particular case. And now he's no longer Chief Justice.
Do we know why?
Well, we don't know. I mean, it's one of those really difficult things to deal with. And we have the new Chief Justice. When he took office, I've had meetings with him. Like his predecessor, he himself has shown a lot of enthusiasm in supporting our work. He has put a lot of effort in making sure that we reform what is happening. I have sent to him the outstanding judgments that we have, which stand about 20. They have not been delivered. We have over 36 cases which are pending before the courts. Some of them are moving faster, particularly the ones which are now before the anti-corruption judges that have been identified are moving faster. But we still have a lot of backlog. Our docket is heavy, and we have to do something about it. The bottom line of all of this is this. The judiciary has to understand that it has an important role to play within the system, and it has to stand up to that task. It has to be robust in that task. It has to do what it was constitutionally mandated to do. We are reaching the stage where, as a commission, we are going to take a decision whether to look into judges who sit on our cases, judges who sit on cases beyond the statutory required period and not in fact committing what we call abuse of office. Because if you are giving power, and that power limits you to deliver judgment, and you decide not to deliver judgment for such a long period of time, I think it is important whether we look whether in fact you are not abusing that power which was given to you. It is a lot of power that is given to judges to decide the fate of people in Sierra Leone, and
now,
they have to take it.
What is your view on specialized anti-corruption courts?
As you are aware, the president made a promise to the people of Sierra Leone that he was going to set up this court.
Is that an answer?
He made a statement. I am laying a foundation for an answer. He also made a statement in Parliament that he was going to set up the anti-corruption court. And also, I am aware that within the National Development Plan, which is being finalized as we speak, one of the key mandates that has been given to the anti-corruption court, to the anti-corruption commission, is to make sure there is a specialized court for fighting corruption in Sierra Leone. Therefore, it is not about what I believe. First of all, I believe in it 100%, but it's not really about what I believe. This is what the president believes. This is what the parliament believes. This is what those who design the National Development Plan have believed. This is what, as a country, we should believe.
Yeah.
It is something. It is a deliverable which we do not have an option of.
All right, Francis.
We have
hold on that, please. One of the challenges with specialized anti-corruption courts, as far as I'm concerned, especially at the High Court, is that the Court of Appeals and Supreme Court are not specialized. So most of their decisions are overturned and appealed. Have you considered ways of addressing this challenge?
Yes, we have considered this. In fact, I had discussions with the new Chief Justice, who is focused on not only helping us set up an anti-corruption court at the first instance, that is the High Court, but he is already identifying judges at the senior level, at the Supreme Court and the appellate level, who have sufficient experience in anti-corruption issues. Judges like Justice Thompson, Glenna Thompson. Okay. She worked at the ACC. We have other judges who have also experienced, Justice Cisse and others who have experience in dealing with anti-corruption issues, who have experience in dealing with criminal issues, who we are considering for them to be able to occupy the appellate level, so that when the specialized court makes a decision and there's appeal against it, it will also come before sufficiently experienced judges who can deal with it. So we are already working on it. New judges are being recruited as we speak by the Judiciary. Some of them are already under consideration that if they eventually end up becoming judges of the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court, they will definitely be there to populate the senior level of appeals as far as anti-corruption cases are concerned. So we are really looking into it. The Chief Justice is very committed to this, and he has shown immense support in us achieving this as a country.
The ACC under your tenure has also entered into a number of civil settlements with individuals to repay money back to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. Can you explain the legal basis for such civil settlements?
Section 139 of the Anti-Corruption Act gives the Anti-Corruption Commission powers to deal with cases both civil and criminal. And it even gives us power to recover from civil means. And when we recover from civil means, the Commission keeps 10%, which will support its budget and activities, and then 90% is given to the government. It is there. It is the law. It is Section 139 of the Anti-Corruption Commission. So, whilst that provision does not sufficiently explain the powers of the Commission, at least it gives the powers. So, building on that, we have looked at many things that are happening in the country. We have looked at the volume of investigations that we are embarking on right now as a Commission. We have looked at the docket of the Judiciary, how many cases are in court. I have told you that there are well over 40 cases in court right now from the Anti-Corruption Commission, and over 20 judgments outstanding, or close to 20 judgments outstanding. We have looked at the capacity of the Anti-Corruption Commission to push all of these cases at the same time in court and wait sometimes for 3, 4, 5 years for judgment. So, as Commissioner, what we decided is this. We looked at the volume of cases we are doing. We looked at the quality of investigations we are engaging in. So when we finish our investigations, and there's an investigations report, and it goes to prosecution, and there's a prosecutorial report which comes to the Commissioner, we take a decision either to prosecute, or sometimes to confront the witness, or confront the accused person with the evidence we have, and have that accused person pay back, instead of us having to overburden the Judiciary again with all these cases, to have to increase the docket of the court. And also, even you look at what has been happening over the years with the Judiciary. Cases go to court. In the High Court, there is conviction. Almost 80% of them are overturned on appeal. The country loses anyway. So the cost of prosecution will lose. The case itself will lose. The money involved will lose. The country loses the money that was corrupted.
No, but you believe in your evidence. You believe in your case. Now, but then you have largely, based your operations, your tenure on the settlements, which, like you rightly explained, has a legal basis. But I was wondering, where does that leave convictions, which criminal record, may affect convicted persons in future endeavors?
Let me first of all.
No one wants to be called a criminal anyway.
Let me first of all correct you. We have more cases being charged to court than being settled. This is the misconception that has been happening in the media, which I think I should clarify. And I can give you statistics to show that I have signed more indictments that have gone to court than I have settled. However, settlement has been an integral part of what we are doing. And I have told you. For example, the World Bank has been very unhappy with how the ACC has been operating in the past 18 years. Because they felt like the ACC was throwing good money after bad money. Prosecutions were happening, nothing was being recovered. People steal 2 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion loans, 5 billion loans. Some people have been stealing over 100 million loans on a daily basis. They go to court, the judiciary, if even the little minute percent that they find guilty, they end up only installing a file of 30 million euros. When they install that file of 30 million euros, they make it concurrent. So the man is charged with 4 offenses. He's found guilty on all 4. They fine him 30 million euros, and that 30 million euros applies to 4 offenses. And this man stole 4 billion euros, 5 billion euros, 6 billion euros. Is that justice for the people of Sierra Leone? It is not. When I took over as commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission, one of the shocks I had was, I called the prosecution department and said, I want a list of all the judgments that the Anti-Corruption Commission has had in the past 18 years where restitution was ordered. You are a lawyer. You know that in the normal criminal process, when there is judgment, somebody steals money, the court has power to order that money should be paid in addition to the fine. You'll be surprised that when I asked the director of prosecutions of the ACC, do you know what he told me? He said that the judges of the judiciary have refused to order restitution in anti-corruption cases. That in fact, only one judge has ordered restitution. That is Justice Bramak.
Why was that?
In anti-corruption cases. I am coming. I have to clarify this for the people of Sierra Leone to understand why I am doing what I am doing. That only Justice Bramak has had the proclivity in the very limited cases to order restitution in criminal cases. I felt so bad. Because we all know that if somebody steals 5 billion euros, you find him guilty and he pays 30 billion euros. I studied behavioral economics. You can buy your crime. You can decide, let's say a crime they find is 30 million euros. I am a public servant. I am giving 50 billion euros. I can easily buy my crime by stealing that 50 billion euros and ready to pay the 30 million euros at the end of the day. If the judiciary does not order that I pay the 30 million euros and in addition pay the 50 billion euros which I stole, what kind of justice is that? When the director of public prosecution, the director of prosecutions at the ACC brought this to my attention, that is when I decided that look, we have to re-strategize how the Anti-Corruption Commission is fighting corruption in Sierra Leone.
Do you believe?
For example, Hajakala, 3 billion euros.
The former NRA commissioner.
The former Director General of NRA. After investigations, we found out that nearly 6 billion euros was taken for fumigation, which never happened. So the question was, do we go to court and define out 30 billion euros for misappropriation of public funds of 6 billion euros? Or we take our chances and recover 6 billion euros on behalf of the people of Sierra Leone? I can assure you that that decision we took is in the best interest of the people of Sierra Leone, but all is not lost. Whilst we have recovered, in fact, in your advertisement for this program, you stated that we recovered over 8 billion euros, about 8 billion euros. That was in December. Today, as I sit here, we have discovered over 11.5 billion.
Recovered?
Yes. Over 11. In fact, even today, we are processing 2.5 billion euros for recovery from one source.
So, according to you, in your belief, I know you want to say this again, do you think or do you believe that civil settlements can be a deterrent to prevent corruption?
Yes, they can.
Someone said on Twitter Are they simply bandaged to a wound?
Let me tell you something. In this economy, if anybody pays 1 billion euros for his resources, I can assure you that person is teetering on bankruptcy. There are many ways to imprison an individual. Sometimes putting somebody in a cell is not even enough imprisonment. Make him poor and put him back in society. Let society see man or a woman who was one wealthy walking around. In Singapore, for example, in Singapore, they do not have public education system. There is no public education system. If they catch you for corruption, they make sure they take away everything you have and send you back in society so that you become the biggest public example of the fight against corruption. In Sierra Leone, we are taking away 2 billion euros, 3 billion euros. These are monies which the people of Sierra Leone have never heard about recoveries in the ACC. In fact, what we are doing right now, just the commitments, not just, okay, there are recoveries, those are the physical amounts we recover. There is the commitment to recover. The commitment to recover by the ACC now stands by almost 17 billion euros, in addition to the 11 billion euros we've recovered. These are the biggest example. We are balancing recovery. We are doing 3 things right now at the ACC, and I have to clarify this again. One, we are recovering, which the president has rightly said. We are going to build a diagnostic facility where people who are sick, who have been traveling to Ghana, to Guinea, to Nigeria, to the US for diagnosis, can be diagnosed in Sierra Leone. We are going to use those monies to build good schools. We are going to use those monies to replow into the economy to make sure that the livelihoods of the people are better.
Now, talking about those
No,
monies,
let me finish.
Talking about those monies,
Let me finish.
I have to insert this in. Can you reassure the public that the individual asked to repay monies are paying the full amount?
Yes.
And that those who are alleged to have misappropriated, are paying on interest where possible?
Yes. How we do this is simple. For example, we have just finished the Sierra Leone investigation, where about 900,
boss?
the former head of the Sierra Leone Maritime Boss, 900 million euros was improperly used at the Sierra Leone Maritime Agency. What we have done is to simply call all of them together and say, pay back 900 million euros or face prosecution. Today, they have signed the agreement to pay back 900 million euros. One person paying 500 million euros depending on your level of probability. Another paying 200 million euros. Another paying 200 million euros. The people of Sierra Leone are getting back their money. That is what we are doing. But I was trying to say that it is not just recovery we are doing. We are balancing recovery. We are balancing prosecutions. I have told you, and I can give you statistics to show that we are prosecuting more people in court than we are in fact settling with. Let us make this clear. I have told you that since I have become commissioner, 8 straight convictions by the ACC. There are in fact over 2 dozen cases that are standing trial now. Every day our prosecutors in court, before Justice Fain, you can go to their court and see what is happening. Before Justice Miata Samba, there are cases where we are awaiting judgment. Within the next 2 months, those judgments are going to start rolling in. In addition, we are also doing something very important which I want the people of Sierra Leone to remember. We are naming and shaming. We are naming and shaming. Those who are engaging in corruption, that is why almost every day the ACC put out a press release to say Mr. X stole X amount, he has paid back X amount, he's supposed to pay back X amount as the years go by.
What guarantees can you provide that the amounts recovered and paid into the consolidated fund will not be again misappropriated?
Come on now. Come on. We are sending the right message within the population. The people of Sierra Leone have to understand that this time is different. What we are doing at the ACC is evangelical. We are evangelically going to make sure that the resources of the people are protected. If anyone believes that what used to be is what happens now, go and misappropriate. We will come for you again. We will continue doing this until the people of Sierra Leone have their justice. Until the people of Sierra Leone wake up one day and they have a better life. until there is proper education, until there is proper healthcare, until the roads are better, until there is stable electricity, until the people will stop walking on fertile soils with empty stomachs. When we do that, we know that we have succeeded. But if anybody thinks that what we are doing now is a joke, let them try. This time is different. The president of Sierra Leone is committed to the fight against corruption. He declares it everywhere he goes. He has assured the international community, he has assured the people of Sierra Leone, and he has empowered the ACC to act. We are going to act.
His name is Francis Ben Kaifala, and he is the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission. In Sierra Leone, in case you are just joining us, we are watching Bottom Line, and I'm talking to the head or the commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission, Francis Ben Kaifala. You can also join this program through our Facebook page, that is SLBC TV channel 31, or you can also join us on mobile phone number. The number here is 022, or rather 030 022 639 030 022 639. This is Bottom Line.
The official voice of the people of Sierra Leone. You can also follow the program on Facebook, SLBC TV channel 31, or YouTube, SLBC TV live stream. It's Bottom Line. Miss it, miss out. Coming up this Tuesday, the new anti-corruption czar takes a giant leap in recovering over 8 billion leones from corruption-related offences. What are the highs and lows of the ACC settlement agreements in curbing corruption? And as the commissions of inquiry proceed, what eye is ACC keeping, and how does this factor into its fight? Make a date with the country's youngest but solid anti-corruption commissioner, Francis Ben Kaifala, as he leads Joseph Egbenda Kapua on the path to winning the fight against corruption. It's Bottom Line, this Tuesday at 7 p.m. on SLBC, the official voice of the people of Sierra Leone. You can also follow the program on Facebook, SLBC TV channel 31, or YouTube, SLBC TV live stream. It's Bottom Line. Miss it, miss out. Coming up this Tuesday, the new anti-corruption czar takes a giant leap in recovering over 8 billion leones from corruption-related offences. What are the highs and lows of the ACC?
We are back with the program Bottom Line. Like I said, you can continue to send your messages to 030 022 639 030 022 639. Let's go through some of the messages coming in so far. Thanks to the current ACC boss for retrieving such a huge amount from corrupt activities, and I hope they will use the money to develop the country. This is from Boss Eli of Dozak. Can you explain the double jeopardy law with regard to the Commission of Inquiry and ACC prosecution on the alleged accused being investigated? I believe it should not just stop at perpetrators paying back what they stole, but it should also face a jail term. A crime should be punished, and paying back is not a punishment. This is from Ben Maki. They should pay and be hanged up, after Tucker says. Under anti-corruption strategy prevention, do you apply zero cash policy? This is lean to. How will you respond to someone who will say your current funds recovery strategy will just further help to encourage corruption? And this is from Bai. Corruption is an epidemic, creates more, Mr. Commissioner. Tijan Mustafa Kalon. Mr. Commissioner, what is the best approach you would like the ACC to carry on? People that are guilty of corruption, and this is from Sardine, I see here. More messages coming in. This one here is not too clear at all. But then you can continue to send your messages to 030-022-639. I know you'll be contemplating on some of the questions coming in. There is one talking about yes, the Job Jeopardy law with regards to the corruption, the Commission of Inquiry, and the ACC prosecution on the alleged. Maybe you want to address me on the relationship between the ACC and the ongoing commissions of inquiry, insofar as this question is posed by these texters in view.
Yes, the Anti-Corruption Commission and the ACC are twin approach to the fight against corruption within the same system. We are binary, but our aims and objectives are the same. is to make sure there is transparency, there is accountability within the public system, and there is impunity also. We remove impunity within the public space. So the ACC is different from the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Right, you mean the commission's
The Commission of Inquiry is different from the Anti-Corruption Commission. However, we are supporting the work of the Commission of Inquiry by providing them, for example, our asset declaration regime. We provide support so that they have access to the asset declarations made by public servants. We are also helping them with the prosecutorial system. One of our prosecutors, in fact, the principal prosecutor in the court. We are also supporting what they are doing by making sure that if they need any information otherwise which the ACC can provide, we make it available to them. Most importantly, when the Commission of Inquiry shall have completed, there may be issues which they are going to have to refer to the ACC for prosecution. So that is the relationship between us. We are binary, heading in the same direction, but different.
Maybe you want to say this in other words. Will individuals who appear before the commissions as persons of interest be subject to further investigation and possibly prosecution by the ACC?
Now let me, this question makes me smile, because then for a very long time I have to remove my commissioner coat and wear my lawyer clothes. The job with Jeopardy law. You see, I have had many analysts, including lawyers, make the mistake as to what is the meaning of double jeopardy. Double jeopardy is a rule that applies to a person who has been convicted of a criminal offense. It simply says you cannot be convicted, you cannot be tried and convicted for the same criminal offense. The Commission of Inquiry is not a criminal court. By the Commission of Inquiry not being a criminal court, there is no way the issue of double jeopardy is ever going to arise. Similarly, if there is no double jeopardy arising from what the Commission of Inquiry is doing, the ACC's mandate under Section 7 of the Anti-Corruption Court, of the Anti-Corruption Act, remains in place. Our mandate is to investigate and prosecute corruption. Is to investigate, prevent, and prosecute corruption everywhere in Sierra Leone. That mandate has not been removed by the Commission of Inquiry. We can investigate anybody, we can try anybody, and anybody can be found guilty. What we will do is, as a commission, we will respect the positions and recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry. So if the Commission of Inquiry has already taken a position on your issue before it, the ACC is not going to have again to prosecute you for it. But if the Commission of Inquiry does not take a position on your issue, or if we believe that the Commission of Inquiry has not adequately addressed your issue, it does not vitiate from our mandate under Section 7 of the Anti-Corruption Act, we are going to continue. But most importantly, let me make this clear. Double jeopardy refers to two criminal trials. The Commission of Inquiry is not a criminal trial. Let those who are misleading the public stop misleading the public. Let lawyers understand and agree that double jeopardy is for criminal trials, and the Commission of Inquiry is not a criminal trial.
Let's move on. Now, Sierra Leone recently moved up in a Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index, I think 2018, from my research, 130 in 2017 to 129. And the country was not among the 113 countries that experienced a decline in score. What goal have you set yourself for the 2019 and 2020 index?
Let me just go back and tell the Sierra Leoneans what we have won in 2018, what we have achieved in all this effort we are putting in the fight against corruption. MCCU control of corruption, we failed in 2017 by 49%. By the end of 2017, we passed by 71%. Afrobarometer, which is another index, corruption perception was 73%. By the end of 2018, it dropped to 43%. Also, the citizens' belief in the fight against corruption overall in the country was as low as 40%. By the end of 2018, it is as high as 66%. Now coming to Transparency International, which is another scorecard for the fight against corruption in Sierra Leone, we moved from 130 to 129, which is one space up. But above all,
in the world globally, this year, it was one of the most gloomy pictures of the fight against corruption. 113 countries experienced a decline. That means 113 countries moved backwards. We did not only maintain our position, we moved by one space up, which shows that as a country, we are winning.
Behind that?
We are winning big. The secret behind this is easy. These indexes reward commitment. They reward effort. They ask the question, what are you doing as a country about corruption? Make no mistake, corruption is everywhere in the world. Everywhere you go, there are corruptions. In several countries, there are corruptions. But what is happening in other countries is that corruption is at the high echelon. Almost everywhere in the world, there is corruption in military procurement. Almost everywhere in the world, there are corruption in, for example, lobbying systems, how parliament makes laws. But in Sierra Leone, in countries like Sierra Leone and other third world countries, corruption permeates and goes down to the basic things that touch and concern the lives of the ordinary man. They buy drugs for people to have them in hospital. Somebody will take them and sell them. They give somebody to provide water supply to a section of Sierra Leone. He will decide to go and eat everything or buy cars for himself. So, corruption is everywhere. What is happening right now in Sierra Leone and why the world is reacting to what we are doing is because the effort is there. From the rhetorics and position of the president and his government, they are showing immense commitment to the fight against corruption. The Anti-Corruption Commission, we don't need to remind you what we are doing as a commission. The entire country is seeing what we are doing. The results are out there.
Are you a fan of perception indices?
Well, unlike, I was in this country when those perception indices used to come out and commissioners used to take up a very combative approach. Transparency International is lying and all these things. Instead of doing something about it. I think that anything that scores you, even when we go to school, we wait for a report card. You may not like the teacher, but when he writes the report card and says you came first, you will celebrate.
Oh yeah.
But if he says that you came last in class, you will cry that this teacher has failed me. It's the same thing with corruption perception.
Do you think perception indices actually reflect the reality?
I think they are capable of gauging what is happening in the country. They may not 100% reflect the reality. Every examination of that nature has a margin of failure. Sometimes it's -5 + 5. There's always room. But to say that there is nobody in the world who will say that corruption is not prevalent in Sierra Leone. So what are we arguing about? It is for us to do something about it. And that is why the president, who understands this, has taken it very seriously. He made it one of the 3 pillars of his governance: education, lawlessness, the fight against corruption. That is why the ACC is reacting to that position of the president. And we are already scoring successes. Let us do that as a country. Let us stop being defensive about the things that we are defenseless about. Corruption is everywhere. We know it is there.
Right,
let us do something about it.
Progress. Now, the commission is also, we understand, your commission, the ACC, is proposing a number of amendments, to its act. We understand. What are these amendments, if at all, and the reasons that necessitated them?
Good. You see, we understand the problems. We understand the weaknesses of the Anti-Corruption Act. After 18 years experience of fighting corruption, we know the areas of the laws that need strengthening. Firstly, we have put before Parliament an asset declaration regulation, which reduces the pool of people who have to declare their assets every year. It is a waste of resources, a waste of money for teachers, every police officer, every cleaner in public office to declare assets. We are reducing that pool to those people who matter most. That does not mean that amendment is not taking into consideration also those who are in the lower echelons, because sometimes the clerk is richer than the director. But we will keep an eye on them, and if we realize that that person needs to declare his assets, we will go after him and ask him to declare his assets under oath. And then we investigate him. But what we are doing is to bring some sanity into the asset declaration regime. What is there is chaos. Let us reduce the pool to those who matter, those who are capable of stealing the billions, and let us manage them well for the good of the country. But most importantly, We are also increasing the punishments in the Anti-Corruption Act. Recall I told you that when I came in, I was shocked to find out that the judges were refusing to order restitution. Now we are amending the law to make sure that anybody who is found guilty of misappropriation of public funds, in addition to your fine, you will have to pay back the money. Once that amendment is done, the ACC will no longer be doing the settlements we are doing, because the law would have adequately taken care of it. We are also increasing the punishments for corruption. It is now 3 years minimum. We are increasing it to 5 years minimum. We are increasing the fines for corruption from 30 million euros to 50 million euros minimum. We are also tweaking a little bit the evidential burden of proof. When you are charged with misappropriation of public funds, if they give you government money, they say go and build wells for the people in the provinces, in Makeni, in Kono, in Bo, you decide to use it in a way that you cannot explain. The burden of that explanation is going to be on you, not the Anti-Corruption Commission anymore.
All right, okay. Now, the fight against corruption also, I believe, cannot be left to the ACC alone. What steps have you taken to bring other agencies of government into this fight?
Part of the mandate under the National Development Plan is to make sure we take anti-corruption into every public sector. So what we have done as a commission is to work with our partners, Kofi, and the DFID is supporting this, for us to embed in the public sector integrity management committees. Integrity management committees are like mini ACCs within every ministry, department, or agency of state. They are there to make sure that these institutions imbibe good practices, they follow anti-corruption policies and regimes, and also to give us information as to when there is a need to come and do systems and processes review. And sometimes they can also apply certain subtle pressure by their own systems of punishment within the EMC. So the integrity management committees are what we have done to make sure that the fight against corruption is not just left to the ACC, it's taken to the public. But we also have the civil society who we are recruiting en masse to support our work, and sometimes we finance them to do.
Is the fight itself, by your estimation, a winnable one?
100% the fight against corruption is winnable. If the fight against corruption was not winnable, we would not have some countries where corruption is lower and other countries where corruption is higher. The question is, what is win? Win is when you are capable of controlling corruption to such a degree that it is the exception and not the rule. What we have had in Sierra Leone for 56 years, 57, 58 years of independence is that corruption is the rule. You do it, you are capable of getting away with it. In Sierra Leone now, what we are doing is to make sure it becomes an exception. Those who get away with corruption will be so small. Corruption control will be at such a level that people can do, and it is already happening. We have people who are crossing Lungi Airport, and they will come and say, for the first time I crossed Lungi Airport and nobody asked me for money. People are crossing checkpoints, and they say, oh, the police are not asking me for money. People are going to have licenses in government departments, and they say, for the first time in our history, I did this without somebody asking me. Even Wataki, which has been known to be one of the most corrupt places on earth, not just in Sierra Leone. People are now coming to me as commissioner, they will sit down and say, trust me, I went and cleared my car. I even offered money to the man, and the man said, no, go and pay. So we are already reaching there. We'll get there.
Do you enjoy your job as commissioner of the ACC, or do you fear for your life?
This is a question I get a lot. I believe that every country receives change by the sacrifices of some people. I genuinely believe that fighting corruption is the biggest need of Sierra Leone right now. Because I believe in that, and I have been given the opportunity by the president to lead that fight. I know there are risks attached to it.
Do you enjoy your job? Do you enjoy the job?
I think it's a sacrifice I'm doing for the people of Sierra Leone, and I like it. I like it.
What do you want your legacy as commissioner to be?
My legacy as commissioner is for Sierra Leoneans to achieve corruption control, for children to go to school, good schools, corruption does not affect them, for us as a country to gain respectability in the world, for us to be placed among countries that are called great, and people can look back and say it is because of what people like the president did, it is because like what people like Kaifala did, it's because what people like you, for example, as Director General of the SLBC, all of us collectively did to change the story of this country. That would be my biggest legacy. That I believe would be the legacy of a group of people. It will not be me alone, it will be the team at the ACC who are supporting my work, the hardworking men and women who are sacrificing every day to stand in the way of corruption and help me help the president for us to achieve corruption.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you very much, Francis. But just before we go, let's have a look at some of the messages again. Quick one. Great job to the ACC and the SLBC. Watching live from the US. This is from Patrick Sovi Jr. Recovery saves time and cost. Those who prefer to go through the cost system should pay off the money they misappropriated, pay a fine and the cost of the ACC. Commissioner, please investigate any public official relieved of his or her duty before another one is appointed. Festus Lahai. Honestly, I admire both of you guys within the present government. I hope others will emulate your steps. FBK, please say something on Aisha Wansi. The case, yes. Thanks, SLBC, for this all-important discussion, and also thanks, Commissioner, for your brilliant presentation. What will be the relevance of forensic audits or accounting experts to the Commission on the fight against corruption? This is from James. Tell them, my own lawyer of the year. This is from Abdullah Jallo. You are very correct on the issue of double jeopardy law. You are a brilliant commissioner. Well, those are the text messages coming in. I'm afraid we don't have time to go over them or have our commissioner, I guess, tonight to respond to all of these. But then it has been Bottom Line coming to you from the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. If you missed part of all of this edition, tune in again on Thursday at 1 p.m. There will be a repeat broadcast of this show. Otherwise, you join us next Tuesday at 7 for a fresh edition of the program, Bottom Line. Many thanks to our guest, Francis Ben Kaifala, Commissioner of the ACC. Hope to see you again on Bottom Line. With many thanks to our producer, Tili Kuruma, and members of the technical crew. Many thanks for putting this program again together. We are back next Tuesday with a fresh edition of Bottom Line. Bye-bye.
On Facebook, SLBC TV Channel 31, or YouTube, SLBC TV live stream. It's Bottom Line. Miss it, miss out. Coming up this Tuesday, the new